Hyvää huomenta kaikille ja kiitoksia aktiivisesta osallistumisesta eilen. Meillä on täällä 2000 paikkaa vapaana ja taisi olla 53 lunastamatonta nimikorttia tuolla alakerrassa. Ja kiitoksia hauskasta illasta. Mä olen Jukka Veräväinen ja vastaan meillä Suomessa tästä tuottavuusratkaisujen liiketoiminnasta ja on esittelemässä täällä meidän osa-alueelta seuraavan puhujan Keenan Newtonin. Keenan tulee meidän SharePoint-tuoteryhmästä ja toimii henkilönä tässä meidän asiakkuuksien ja meidän insinööriryhmän välillä ja vaikuttaa vahvasti siihen, että millä tavalla nämä meidän tuotteet kehittyy eteenpäin. Keenan on varmasti monelle tuttu Teket-tapahtumista, SharePoint-konferenssista, Code Magazine-artikkeleista, MSDN-blogeista ja niin edelleen. Mutta tämän päivän teemana Keenani puhuu parissa osiossa. Siinä käydään ekaksi läpi tätä sosiaalista kerrosta osana tätä yhtenäistä kokemusta, yhtenäistä alustaa, millä tavalla ihmiset, sisältö ja liiketoimintatieto yhdistetään yhdessä kokonaisuudeksi, millä tavalla tämä yhteisöviestintä laajennetaan meidän laitteisiin ja sovelluksiin, miten tämä upotetaan eri järjestelmiin. Toisena osana Keenan tulee puhumaan meille tästä uudesta sovelluskehitysmallista, jota tänään myös tuolla Office- ja SharePoint-trackillä jatkossa käsitellään. Eli lyhyesti, millä tavalla organisaatiot pystyy hyödyntämään miljardin käyttäjän Office.com-alustaa web-teknologiasovelluksilla, millä tavalla voidaan hyödyntää sitä julkisessa jakelussa ja millä tavalla sitä voidaan hyödyntää myös sitten tuolla organisaation sisäisessä jakelussa. Mutta pidemmittä puheitta, please welcome Keenan Newton.
Thank you, Yuka. How was everybody today? Hopefully everybody is wide awake from last night's great party. We're at day 2 of Tech Days, and I'm here to talk a little bit about Office and SharePoint. And specifically, I'm going to talk a little bit around our social efforts with SharePoint and Yammer, as well as the new app model and the ecosystem for building customizations on SharePoint and Office. When we looked at SharePoint 2013 and Office 2013, we kind of tried to come up with a different way of thinking how we actually how people actually are productive in their day-to-day lives. With Office and SharePoint, we've done a lot of work about making sure that content was discoverable. But one of the key things that we've discovered over time is that it's not just content that's critical, it's also people. And with people, there's a lot of knowledge and information that they have inside of their head. And so in order to be able to fully leverage that, one of the core focuses with the Office and SharePoint platforms was to focus around the social aspects of the products. So when we think about SharePoint 2013, we kind of have 5 key areas that we think about. First, obviously, sharing. That's the sharing of content and ideas. But being able to share is just kind of the stepping stone. We also need to have the ability to be able to organize that content together. Being able just to put out random thoughts on a random note online or on a web page doesn't do very good if you can't organize that data somehow. For instance, by tagging that information or by putting it within a specific directory or category. Being able to discover information. So now once we have content and thoughts and ideas organized, we have to be able to easily discover that. And that's where search comes into play. With the efforts of bringing in the fast search engine into SharePoint, we can leverage and do that and use the full power of the fast search engine. But like most other organizations, not everybody does things the exact same way. We have to be able to build customizations. We have to be able to build within the Office and SharePoint platforms. So that's where we think about build, where you can actually build custom solutions to go ahead and enhance productivity for your customers and users. And lastly is manage. Like we've done before with SharePoint and with Office before, we have a top-tier management capabilities in the products. And that way, IT departments can control them depending on their needs. If they have specific policies that they have to enforce, they can go ahead and enforce that. We've also added enhancements to increase the capabilities around e-discovery and being able to place content on hold as well. Now, this all comes down to connected experiences. So the idea is that we want to be able to get connected together. And we're doing this today, and it started kind of pioneered in the consumer world, where people were connecting together on Twitter, they're connecting together on Facebook, they're sharing ideas, they're sharing content together. But they're doing it on whatever platform that they want to do it on. They're doing it on their mobile devices, they're doing it on their tablets, they're doing it on their PCs. Some are even doing it on their Xboxes, when you open up a web browser in their Xbox. So being able to support these multiple platforms is key. Next is being able to share that knowledge. And obviously, we've always been able to share content, but when we think about social, it's also about sharing the thoughts that we have, because the greatest asset we have in our organizations is people. We're the ones that come up with the ideas. The document doesn't generate itself. Someone actually is there generating that document. And being able to work together and collaborate. Breaking down silos that exist. Those are three key principles around the connected experiences. Twitter is probably one of the most one of the more popular microblogging sites that are used today. There are over 350 million tweets that occur on a daily basis, and people put out sometimes too much information. And there's other people that don't use Twitter much at all. But the idea is that we have the ability to capture that information, capture those thoughts and ideas, and be able to update those around us to ensure that they're in the know of what we're thinking about. Facebook has over 955 engaged users that are out there. And an engaged user is a very, very productive user, and we can apply that to the enterprise as well. Having an engaged user means that that person's paying attention to what they're doing. They're paying attention to the content that's out there, and they're providing content as well, which in turn adds more value and intellectual property for a particular organization. And lastly is Skype. Skype is another technology, and we think about social networks, what social is all about, but in reality, we've had social for a very, very long time. And that social really kind of started more along the lines of instant messaging, texting over a phone. You can even think social started off with the simple phone call back when the phone was first invented. People have always been social. This isn't something that's brand new. Social networks definitely are more of a newer thing, but the idea of being able to communicate and be able to socialize has always been around within the workplace. What would you have done if you didn't have instant messaging that we have today, that we can use like Link within our organizations, where we can have video conference calls? I can have calls with people across the world without leaving my desk. This is all very powerful ways of being able to share information and break down silos. Because especially as organizations get larger and larger, typically more and more silos tend to occur. Before I'd taken this role, I was actually Microsoft Consulting Services. So I basically sat where you all sat today, or sitting today. And I saw many organizations where they would have regions in Germany and regions of the United States and regions in China. Different locations, and sure enough, all the locations were doing research on different things, and sure enough, they were all doing the exact same research. They didn't know because they couldn't socialize their efforts. They had no way of being able to communicate effectively across those different geographical locations. That's where social helps to break that down. Social is transforming the way that we're working together. And the statement pretty much stands for itself. We're being able to leverage not only can we organize and manage content, but also be able to organize and manage thoughts and ideas. And in doing that, we're moving away from document-centric tasks to people-centric interactive tasks, where it's all about people and the content that they create. So here's an interesting kind of a fact. top-performing companies have engaged employees. So companies that do really, really well, they really have really productivity, high productivity, they generally have 18% higher productivity when their employees are engaged. They typically have profitability of 12% or higher when their employees are engaged. And their turnover rate, which is probably one of the most expensive things that most organizations have to deal with, is much lower. It's about 51% lower than when employees are not engaged. So how do you engage employees? Well, that's where social is kind of helping drive kind of a new way of doing business. You engage employees by allowing people to share, allowing people to do simple things like basically in a way to kind of have a little bit of appreciation for other people's efforts. So they can praise people, and people enjoy being praised and thought of and congratulated for the good work that they've done. Those type of people are more engaged. Being able to have a senior executive have the ability to read content that you may have written, like a specific posting about maybe a particular product or idea you have. Those type of people are going to be more engaged because they know that they won't just kind of get swept, their ideas won't get swept underneath the carpet through management. So when we think about our vision for the enterprise social, we think about it from the terms of connected experiences and the connected platform. And we think about connected experiences about the different devices and the being able to be on the web or be on the desktop, and the connected platforms such as Office 365, where we connect your Outlook, your calendar, your news feed, SharePoint sites all into one experience. And the social layer is what helps bridge those gaps together. So that social layer provides the mechanism for engaging and allowing people to leverage the connected experiences across the various platforms. So the social layer today, we acquired Yammer a little bit ago, and we see Yammer as being one of the most exciting enterprise social products that's out there. And today we have the ability to integrate Yammer with existing SharePoint environments using web parts as well as embedded open graph technologies to be able to embed it into custom applications. In this case here, we have the ability to leverage the Yammer web parts within SharePoint, and also Dynamic CRM can leverage the open graph capabilities within the product itself. For overall, the roadmap for Yammer and SharePoint, there's been a lot of questions around that, and I'll kind of give you a little insight to what that's going to look like. Today, as I mentioned, we have the open graph capabilities with just embedding HTML code into your web applications as well as web parts. Tomorrow, we're going to be looking at more deeper connections, being able to integrate document management between Yammer and SharePoint, be able to integrate identity. So we have like single sign-on experiences. Being able to integrate the feeds, so you can take the Yammer feed and have that drive the feed of SharePoint. So that way, again, it's a more connected and more connected user experience. And then going forward, farther into the future, it's all going to be about new experiences that can combine everything that we do: socialization, collaboration, email, instant messaging, voice, and video. That's what our ultimate goal is again, creating that connective experience, being more people-centric as opposed to content or document-centric. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and start with a demo. Where I'm just going to go ahead and demo a little bit what some of the capabilities are that we have with Yammer. Here I have a demo Yammer site set up, and when we look over to the left, I have a set of groups that I can go ahead and belong to. So these different groups are kind of a way to kind of filter like areas of interest. So if I'm interested in a particular group, such as maybe marketing or operations or sales, I can go ahead and join that group as a whole. Groups can be when they're created, they can be made public. So if I go in and want to go ahead and create a group, I'll go ahead and let's try that again. Okay. So when I go ahead and create a group, I'll specify a name. I can give the group a specific description itself. I can also specify whether the group is public or private. And that's important because not all the times if you have like an internal team group, you might want to keep that private. But if you want to allow members to see the group and be able to be a part of the group and join the group randomly, let's say you might want to have a team of people that maybe are SharePoint experts or Azure experts within your organizations. So you can easily have people that can share and collaborate information there. You can also create external networks. And external networks are a great way to be able to engage people that are outside of your organization. So your network within your organization is basically just for you and your employees. But if you have partners and vendors that or potentially customers that might interact with you, you can actually create external networks where you can share information that is consumable by that audience. And again, you can define whether the network is open, so anybody can go ahead and add themselves to the network, or if it's a closed, basically invite-only type of network as well. So to the right, just to kind of quickly go through, you can see the recent activity that has occurred for the various users. So we can see that Sarah Davis, as what groups she has joined. We can also see, if we go down a little bit lower, we can suggest people that might have the same interests as myself. So again, when I talk about breaking down these silos, these people may be located in a totally different location from where my team is. I could be in Chicago. They could very much well be in Germany, but it will suggest those people saying, hey, both of you are interested in paralegal, so you guys might want to make sure that you guys stay connected together. And that way, when you share thoughts and ideas and content, you guys are aware of what each other's sharing, so you don't replicate efforts. We can also take a look at trending files, like content that's actually posted up into Yammer. So anything that might be important, that might be actually useful, you can go ahead and administrate. So let's go ahead and take a look at some of the capabilities. Obviously, we can share updates like you can in documents and post poll, but one of the key things you can do is you can create an announcement, such as the announcement that you see at the top here. So I can specify a new announcement. And I could go ahead and post that. And I can specify who I'm going to actually post that for. And what will happen is that announcement will then appear in everybody's page at the top when they go ahead and sign on. So everybody within my organization will be automatically be able to see that announcement. And then once you went ahead and read an announcement, you can then go back, and that announcement is then gone. So some other things that you can do as well is you can actually use polls. Now, I won't go through the process of creating a poll, but one of the things you can do is getting the opinions within your organization, your HR departments. Maybe your CXOs are looking for different ideas or bouncing different ideas off of different individuals. And you can specifically invite people to go ahead and submit to the poll, or you can have people just go ahead and discover the poll on their own accord. This is really a great idea, being able to exchange ideas and giving people a way to engage in order to be able to feel like they have a choice or give their opinion on what they think is a good or maybe a bad idea. So if we take a look down here, we can see that there's a poll here. So I know I put it in here a little bit ago. Might be my all company feed. Come on, network. Okay, so in creating a poll, we'll just go ahead and create a simple one here. So we'll say, we can do a simple poll here, say, I'm not having much luck with the network right now. So we'll just go ahead and continue and move forward. So they have the ability to create polls. You can also go ahead and praise individuals as well. Oh, there we go. So I can go ahead and praise somebody. So if someone's doing an excellent job, I can go ahead and make sure that everybody is aware of the work and the effort that they're putting in, into whatever task that they were doing. So that way I can acknowledge somebody for doing a particularly good job, which is always a great thing to be able to do. So with that, you also have the ability, as I mentioned, to look at different networks. I mentioned that you have your own home network, that's to your own organization, but you can also look at networks that are external, such as maybe I want to look at all my suppliers that are in Latin America. I can go ahead and select on that specific network and then be able to see what the feeds and the information that's being provided there as well. So here I can see everything that's going on with all the feed information that's coming in over from my Latin American suppliers. Now, one of the things to the right as well, as you can see, is I have the online now ability, which basically tells me who's online. So I can instantly go ahead and communicate with somebody, just basically like through an IM, and be able to directly communicate with individuals that are actually online. So with that, that's kind of the general basic grand tour of what Yammer has to offer. And one of the key things, it's really about kind of breaking down the individual walls that we have that typically just naturally end up being created as organizations get larger and larger. The challenge is, how do we effectively communicate across the different silos, across the different teams, and still be able to be productive? And social is enterprise social is that answer. So next thing I want to do is talk about the cloud app model, and specifically around the overall ecosystem of what that means. So in Office and SharePoint prior to 2013, and the GA of Office 365, the most recent one, building customizations involved effectively building full trust code that plugged into SharePoint, or a VSTO add-in, or some type of COM add-in that plugged into whether it was Word, Excel, Outlook, or whatever that may be. While it was very, very powerful, it also required a lot of great responsibility. I mentioned before that I was in Microsoft Consulting Services. Well, one engagement that I was on, I was doing a deployment at 4 in the morning into a SharePoint farm. We had tested all the code, and we'd done everything that we possibly could do to make sure that that deployment was going to be successful. Once we deployed it, within 30 minutes, the entire SharePoint farm went down. Why? Because I made a mistake with my full trust code where I forgot to close a do-while loop. And there was a condition where it could continue racing on. Effectively created a memory leak, and the server ran out of resources and locked up. And that's one of the dangers of full trust code. No matter how much testing, code coverage that you may do, unit testing, system testing, smoke testing, pre-production, load testing, you name it, things can still slip. And being able to have a stable environment is critical to being successful for productivity. So one of the key things that we wanted to emphasize with this ecosystem is we wanted to be able to provide a mechanism where solutions can be loosely coupled with SharePoint and Office. In other words, the code that you write does not run on the SharePoint server within that SharePoint instance or within that Word or Excel instance. Instead, it runs externally, and it interacts with Office or SharePoint using common web technologies that we're all familiar with, HTML5, JavaScript, REST endpoints, OAuth for authentication, OData for making queries and exchanging data. These types of technologies can work together to provide a user experience that is integrated, yet provides a scalable model where solutions can be built for the platform without directly impacting the platform. And this is most important for us because of Office 365. And with Office 365, we needed, as you may know, you can't insert full trust code. The only thing you could do in the past was to insert sandbox solutions, and those are the only types of customizations. And while sandbox solutions did offer some capabilities, it wasn't the easiest way to be able to put solutions out there all the time. So there were some limiting factors. Now with this ecosystem, part of the thing that we saw was that it's also difficult to discover solutions. You know, every day we're on our mobile devices, or whether it be a tablet or phone, or if you're on Windows 8, and you can easily go to a store and discover apps that you can go ahead and plug into your environment. Why not do that for productivity? There's a simple little thing that always kind of rings in my head. There are roughly 100 million iPhone users out there. There are over 1 billion Office users. When it comes to productivity and the opportunity to create apps and solutions for productivity experiences, it seems like a natural fit to be able to build an app model and to store around those productivity tools, because we're in those tools every days of our lives. I'm willing to bet everybody opens up Outlook at least once a day, and within there's probably useful things that you can do. If you are ever using Office 2013 today, you'll see there are actually some apps already built into the Outlook experience. If you go and see an email message that pops up and it has like a question mark in it, you'll see an app will pop up saying, hey, do you want to make this a task? So that way you can, and flag it for later, that way you can follow up with it, because it's asking you a question. The app then assumes saying, oh, there might be some actionable item for you to do. Well, that's extremely handy. I don't have to think about it. Just by that app prompting me there saying, oh yeah, there's probably something for me that I need to take action on. So being able to discover and being able to integrate those solutions are key focuses with the ecosystem. Again, with the store, the Office store and the SharePoint stores allow you to easily discover those types of solutions like you can on your mobile device. So that way, if you wanted to, you could swipe a card, but we didn't make it so that way just anybody could just install an app. IT departments, of course, can control those types of solutions. So one of the key things I mentioned is being able to leverage languages and tools that you are most familiar with. Now, because that essentially apps for Office and apps for SharePoint are web applications that are being ran somewhere out on the internet, you can host them in any type of web hosting platform that you choose. That could be PHP, Windows Azure. It could be IIS if you're doing something locally, internally. It could be Amazon Web Services. It could be any platform that you choose, any platform that you're most comfortable with, any platform that you have the resources to develop the customization for. You're not stuck with having to use Microsoft technologies. Now, I will say this: we do offer a first-class experience with this app model, obviously with Windows Azure, IIS, and the Visual Studio tooling. And we makes it very simple for being able to package and deploy solutions. So without a doubt, that's there. But in being able to build these solutions, we also give them the ability for IT departments to be able to manage those solutions, so they can prevent users from installing apps from the store. They can allow users to request an app, go through a workflow that someone in an IT department can review, and either approve or decline the app, purchase it internally, and then notify the end user saying, hey, your app is now ready. We have that capability. Or if you so choose, you can just have the store completely open. You also have the ability to manage apps internally. So a lot of organizations build customizations internally, and we have something called the app catalog to be able to manage those. And from the end user experience, it is essentially the same experience between the store and the app catalog and acquiring apps. They just go and they just select whether I want to look for content apps from my organization, or if I'm going to look for apps from the store itself. And then lastly, from an IT standpoint, you can see how apps are performing. There's throttling mechanisms that are there, as well as the IT department can always go to any app that's installed and kill it instantly. So if for some reason an update is doing something that it shouldn't be doing, or if there's an app that someone installed that shouldn't have installed, the IT department can instantly stop that app as well. So from the App Store, we think about the kind of the overall opportunity that's there. So there's obviously the enterprise opportunity that's there for building productivity solutions, but productivity solutions go beyond just the enterprise. They also go into the consumer world. A perfect example is education. Being able to submit assignments from Word into platforms like Moodle in the education space. Being able to support things like, which we will be able to support in the near future, like single sign-on between third-party services in Office 365. The Azure AD platform enables that. And that kind of attests to the connected platforms. And that message that we have around that is that when Azure AD makes an enhancement or upgrade that allows third-party services, since Office 365 is using Azure AD on the back end to manage its authentication and authorization, well, then you get that with Office 365 as well. And really, it comes down to the opportunity. As I mentioned before, it's basically a 10-to-1 ratio of productivity users to iPhone users that are out there. And the fact is that a lot of people are going to need solutions to make them more productive. That could be something as simple in enterprise as pulling down data from from SAP or from Dynamics ERP, and being able to bring that into Excel. In the past, we've used things like ODBC connections. Boy, that's dangerous, especially because if for some reason the user that's actually accessing that content has write abilities, and then they're hooking into that database using ODBC. I've seen where end users have basically erased entire databases and didn't realize it because they just deleted the content within an Excel spreadsheet, and all the data in the database went with it. So this way you can create apps and solutions in a controlled manner that easily plug in, are easily discoverable, and that are effectively sanctioned by the IT department, and be able to still allow the end user to be productive. We talked a little bit about this around our developers around tooling and Azure and the web. So we have actually a new tooling, which I'm going to do a demo of it in a little bit, called Napa. And Napa is a browser-based integrated development environment, like Visual Studio. But as opposed to needing a client, only thing you need is a browser. And the only thing you need is an Office 365 developer subscription. Or if you have an enterprise E3 account, or I think there's some other SKUs as well, you can set up a developer site collection. And what you do is it looks very similar to Visual Studio. It doesn't have all the capabilities, but it's a low-friction way to start prototyping an application. It's a great way for individuals to create some really cool apps. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and demo one that I had already created. Azure is obviously our first and best platform for supporting supporting apps for the cloud, for Office 365. and probably one of the key things is like with our data centers, our Office 365 servers and our Azure servers are basically in the same, are usually in the same data center. So you can set it up to that way that they're locally. So from a performance standpoint, you're going to probably get the most bang for your buck from there. You're also going to get a great first-class experience with the Visual Studio tooling. So when you build a solution, you'll have your SharePoint project or your Office project, and then you'll have the web project that will deploy to Azure. So when you click Publish, it automatically deploys both of them for you automatically. And also allowing for familiar tools. Visual Studio is a first-class experience with its debugging capabilities. We just released our RTW, the release to the web, Office developer tooling that you can find on MSDN. And we've done a lot of great enhancements to that. One of the key things we did is to help with dealing with remote event receivers, which you'll learn about in one of the later sessions, I believe, today. But it definitely has a lot of great enhancements, and it really provides a great first-class experience. So with that, let's jump back into another demo, and I'm going to show you a little bit around for apps for Office. So here I have my developer site, and on my developer site I have different apps that I've been working on down here. So as you can see, I have my announcements, Windows Phone push notification service. I have a weather app, and then I have another app called SharePoint Connect I've been working on. When it comes to discovering apps, you can go to your site contents, or in this case I'm selecting my my recent items here. Let me try ripping up my web browser. Awesome. Let's try that one more time. There we go. Looks like our network's just a little bit slow here today. All right. So here I can go and select my recent items, and here I can see the different apps that I have available to me. So one of the key apps that I want to show you is this Napa app. So once I have my developer site tenancy, basically this is just an app, and we have 3 different types of apps for SharePoint. We have the provider-hosted, auto-hosted, which isn't available yet but will be in the future, as well as SharePoint-hosted apps. And Napa is a provider-hosted app, and what a provider-hosted app is, it's an app that is completely hosted outside of SharePoint, and you, the provider of the app, actually does the actual hosting itself. So let's go ahead and pulling back and retrieving my retrieving the different apps I have. And one of the cool apps I've written here is this weather app. Now, when I open this weather app up, as you can see, I have an experience that's very, very similar to what I have with Visual Studio. So you can see that I have my my web page. It's all marked up. You can see all the coloring and the fonts that are there. Over to the left-hand side, I have the ability to add content, so I can add new items, add a new folder, upload content. I can copy items as well. One of the key things I can also leverage is with most types of apps that are browser-based apps that are out there, we've done a lot to make sure that you can't be hacked through cross-site scripting. So one of the key things that we created was the ability to use a proxy that the SharePoint server actually hosts for you in order to be able to send requests. So if we just take a look at the code down here, and if we go, I'll just go ahead and highlight this whole section right here. Now this app that I have will pull back weather information for my particular location where I'm at. And I go ahead and send the URL, but I send it to the SharePoint web proxy. Now I can send multiple requests to this web proxy, and SharePoint will go and make all the calls out into the internet and come back and return them as one whole. So I don't have to worry about making multiple asynchronous calls. I can just do them all together as a whole. And again, that's kind of one of the benefits of using the client-side object model SharePoint. Another key thing that I have here is I leveraged the ability to use the APIs to actually create a list. Now with Napa today, unlike Visual Studio, you can't create content like lists and document libraries and associate them with your app. We don't have that yet. We're working on it. It's just not there yet. But that doesn't mean I can't do that through code. So if I want to create a list with my app, I just write about 6 or 7 lines of code, which I have right here, and where I can go ahead and create my SharePoint list right here. I can then go ahead and execute and add it, and as long as everything goes fine, it's all fine and dandy. So once I have all that, and all that content there, well, to go ahead and do is, this app basically uses a SharePoint list to store my locations, and then uses a web API from W Underground to render weather results for my location. Now, it's important for me for weather because I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to the news. I know I have been deeply. The Midwest in Chicago is kind of going through a lot of snow, roughly I think around 30 centimeters. Have dropped within about a day, which for us is kind of significant. Now, I live in Seattle, but my connecting flight after I leave here is coming through Chicago. So if I want to go ahead and deploy the app, which I'm not going to do right now just because of the network connections, because it takes a little bit of time to go ahead and do that, I already have the app already staged. So we'll go ahead and take a look at what that app looks like. We'll jump back to Office 365 here. Oh, come on. Okay. So I already have the app where I went ahead and installed it. So if I click on Weather for SharePoint, what you'll see is you'll see the actual app appear itself. And I have the simple locations. Now, Bothell, Washington is where I live right now. And it looks like it's a little bit cloudy, but I want to add Chicago as one of my connections. So I'm using jQuery UI and Knockout.js to actually render the templates. And as you can see, Chicago's popped up, which is kind of good because I can see it's an overcast and it's not snowing. So hopefully my flight's not going to get canceled. Now I can go ahead and add Helsinki as well. Go. Hopefully in a few seconds it'll go ahead and pop up on the bottom as well. So this way I have the ability to create various types of compelling solutions. I think it might have somehow magically dropped off here, but here I can create like compelling solutions. Now this is simply a web-based solution using HTML, JavaScript to go ahead and render the UI. I'm not doing anything special. I'm not writing any full trust code. This is all HTML and JavaScript, but I'm able to interact with SharePoint itself. So now that I've shown you this, one of the key things. Let's see if we can get back to the developer site without it taking too long. One of the key things is we actually have properties and abilities to actually be able to to be able to set properties up for particular permissions. So when you create an app, the idea is that your app is going to be isolated. And with the isolation of the app itself, you want to make sure that you don't want to necessarily always give permissions to your actual host, which kind of it looks like it's just taking too long. So we'll go ahead and skip that for now, but I'll go ahead and show you what this looks like in Visual Studio. So here I now have another SharePoint app that I've created. It's called SharePoint Connect. And what it allows me to do is it allows me to integrate content into my newsfeed. And within my newsfeed, I have a manifest file. And within the manifest file itself, I can specify explicit permissions that I want my app to have on my host web. So when I deploy this app is actually going to request explicit permissions by the end user to say, hey, do you want the app to do this, that, or the other? We've seen similar things with LinkedIn and as well as Facebook, and being able to ask the user saying, hey, do you want people to have access to your friends list? Do you want this app to have access to your friends list or to your personal information? Do you accept or decline? And we provide that same type of capability. So what we're going to go ahead and do is we're going to go ahead and start this. And what this app simply does, it allows me to go to any web page within my SharePoint, on any site, and allows me to update that web page that I'm currently looking at into my newsfeed within SharePoint. So usually it takes about 30 or 40 seconds, but one of the key things that occurs here is that apps will not, you're not going to have to bounce your SharePoint server. A SharePoint tendency is always going to be available to you, so you don't have to bounce your server in order to install solutions like you did with Full Trust Code in the past. So the solution's opening up, and one of the key things. Let's log in here real quick. Oh, wrong password. One of the key things that you can do is like you can offer like the Chrome at the top of your app. So here you can see I have the Chrome that provides that similar experience that I had with Office 365. So if I updated my branding and up-to-date my themes in Office 365, this Chrome would go ahead and take that same look and feel. But as you can see, this page is actually not running. It's not actually running there at all. It's actually running on my local host at the top, which is I know kind of small, but trust me, it's not running within SharePoint. So one of the cool things I can do with this app is I can go ahead and go to my favorites. I'll go ahead and remove the old one. And I'm going to add this, right-click on this link here and say Add to Favorites. Now I'm going to go to another page. Let's say I go to weather.com. And I want to go ahead and share like the weather information with everybody that I have, everybody within my team. So I can go to weather.com. I'm not gonna actually fight that. So we'll just do it with this page here. So what I can simply do is I can go to the Office 365 link. It'll open up a new window. It'll ask me, hey, go ahead and what's the new comment that you want to post with your newsfeed? I'll go ahead and say, we'll just put in check this out. And we'll click post. Now what it's doing right now is it's taking the link that the page I was currently viewing, and it's posting this, it's getting us basically creating a thumbnail of the page itself, and it's going to go ahead and post that to my newsfeed. So if I go to my site, I'll give it a few seconds to open up. Once it opens up, I'll be able to go ahead and select my newsfeed, and I'll be able to see the thumbnail image itself. And I'm able to leverage that, leveraging the client-side object model APIs that are provided with the SharePoint tooling. We're almost there. Okay. While we wait on that, I'm going to go ahead and show you a little bit about how this actual app actually works. So the key thing that we have here is this post feeder, and looking at the code itself. Let me just zoom this in a little bit here, so we can all. Oh, a little bit too big. So we can all see it. So looking here, basically I use the client-side object model APIs that are provided for .NET in the CLR. I can go ahead and just specify the feed itself. I can specify the content, the text, and the URL that I want it to link to. And then I have a special app that I created that actually generates the thumbnail image of whatever link that I was actually viewing. And I take that image and I upload that image with the feed itself. Then I just go ahead and execute that, and all my data is then posted. So let's go ahead and take a look back to see where we're at here. And we're still trying to chug along. We'll go ahead and try to jump back to this and give it a little more time to keep churning, and I'm going to move into some apps for Office. So here in Word, I have a typical report, and for students, a lot of times, gaining content is, was before in the past. I remember I would have to go to the Encyclopedia Britannica and, sometimes, rephrase things, or when I make notes, I'd have to make notes somewhere and copy and paste things. It was a hard thing to do. When people ask me, what opportunities are there for apps? And basically, my general answer has been, whenever you've had to copy and paste something from one source to another, that's an opportunity for an app. If I had to go to a web browser and copy and paste content into my Word document, that's an opportunity for an app. If I go and go into SAP and I copy a bunch of data out of a grid, or I had to export it into a CSV file, that's an opportunity for an app. Again, it's all about making people more productive and providing more connected experiences. So if I go to my apps, I can go ahead and select my Bing's search app, and hopefully it'll open up. Because once again, this is on the web, and that works a little slow. There we go. So I have the ability automatically to search for things. So if I just go ahead and select Julius Caesar here, if I can just select Julius Caesar, it'll be all right. There we go. You can see automatically I get images over on my left-hand side. Now I can, this app itself has the ability to provide some functionality. So I can say I want color only. I only want, let's say, medium or small-sized images. So go ahead and filter on just those types of images. So I see one particular image that I like here. I go and select that, and then I can just go ahead and select where I want to insert that image. I click Add. And it should add that image automatically for me in my Word document. So, and as you can see, here is the actual image itself. So then I can go ahead and format that image however I need to. I can do like text wrapping around the image itself, so that way it's available to me, and it just kind of disappeared on me. I'm not sure what happened there, but the idea is that I can format it. I can easily go ahead and should be able to move the picture around, so I can take the picture and go ahead and plug it in wherever I want within the actual content itself as well. So this is just one type of scenario that a consumer or a student can actually use for being able to leveraging the app model itself. But another important thing is, what about organizations that have that have data that's out available on the internet? So one of the things of being able to do is being able to have apps that are available to you. So one of those in these scenarios is I have an inventory app. And one of the things I want to be able to do is I want to be able to determine how are my products across the internet, across a geographic location, are being distributed within my organization. So we'll go ahead and load the app, which will hopefully just take a few more seconds. And as you can see, I have a ability to select. Let's go ahead and pull this out a little bit here. My gas turbines, and I can go ahead and select my products. Now I can just go ahead and say View Inventory, and what should happen is that should automatically populate on my Excel spreadsheet for me automatically. This is a great type of situation where people are using ODBC to go ahead and populate data into Excel. This is a much safer way. Why? Because you get to put domain logic and business logic around it, and you provide an easy, safe mechanism. They don't have to worry about SQL connection strings. They don't have to worry about, oh, am I accidentally going to write something, because you provided all that logic for them, and you did it using relatively simple tools. But one of the cool things that we should be able to do too is we should be able to go ahead and visualize what this data looks like. So I want to be able to see how my data is distributed across the U.S., the United States, and assuming that this app is going to load. Come on. Should have connected with my cell phone for the internet here. Okay, well, I'm not going to sit and wait on that. I have one last demo here. Well, it looks like Excel's still waiting for those apps to load, and it looks like my network connectivity just finally decided to take a dive. So let's go ahead and finish up the presentation. And so we just demoed around the app model, and with the recent the recent release that we just had. We have a lot of great press that's already been mentioned about the store and with Office 365, specifically that the apps being best kept secret. There's a lot of excitement that is occurring out there today. That a lot of the journalists, organizations are all very, very excited about what apps have to offer within the productivity experience. So a couple things that I want to announce. They were released earlier on Monday, but I just want to reemphasize is that the Office Developer Tools released to the web. You can go ahead and download these tools and install them in Visual Studio and start writing apps right away. Also, we have the SharePoint SDK for the Windows Phone 8. You can go ahead and start writing Windows Phone 8 apps today as well. With that, I'd like to thank everybody. And enjoy the rest of Tech Days. Thank you.